Hey, welcome back to Rust Order Garage. 61 Rambler wagon. Let's get something else off the list. So I was going to get onto the floors and stuff, but then I remembered I got to do the rear body mounts. So while the car's on the lift, no better time than now to get those knocked off the list, because they're not a real fun job. Well, I guess it's something, but it's, it's just not very, I don't know what you want to say. It's not a sexy job to make body mounts, but I got to do it. So let's get it done and I can forget about it. All right, so I'm going to try to get some of this done today. It won't all be today, but we'll get started. So the back of the car, I have no body mounts. Obviously, the floor has all of the middle and the front frame mounts. That's all done, the body mounts, but the back doesn't have anything. And on the G-body, there were 4 mounts in the back. Now, 2 of them, the frame is lining right up with the flat of the trunk floor, so that's going to end up being rubber, just rubber squares with some shims to make up the back. But these on either side, the frame kicks out. So this mount area here, I know it's hard to see, really isn't lined up with anything except this outer part of the trunk. So this is the factory mount, and I have new ones, but I'm going to use these originals to figure out what we need. So that sits there. Now I got to make up this gap between the mount and the body. So I've got to weld something in here to pick that up. First thing I do is I got to get all the undercoating off of this area so I can even weld to it. Easiest way to get the undercoating off is with a torch. Much better than trying to scrape it off or use a grinder, and it just makes a mess of everything. You heat it up, it just scrapes right off. And you can get right down to bare metal. Just don't let it land on you unless you want to get burned. And that is nice, shiny, clean metal. And you get flaming undercoating. All right, it is a new day. Get back to this work. So we're working on the rear body mounts. So I have the rear body mounts from the donor car that gave up the chassis. And I'm just using them to build the mounts. I actually bought a whole brand new set of body mounts for the car, so when we take the body off the frame, I can put new mounts in. I think I bought polyurethane. But to build this rear mount here, I'm just starting off with a flat piece of scrap metal and the rest of the body mount. And I actually have the threaded nut, if you call it that, that was inside the trunk floor on the donor car. And I'm just going to assemble this. And kind of build it one piece at a time. And I'm going to put the flat plate against the inner fender well here. And tighten down the mount. Get on there. Wrong way. And then I'm just going to weld this flat plate right to the car and then just come back and start filling in pieces around it and basically build a box. And I'll get it tacked into place. Once the frame is out of the way, I can do final welding, but at least this will get it in place where it needs to be. All right, I got the flat piece tacked in. Really can't get it 100%. Once the body's off, I can weld from underneath and I'll get it finish welded. But now I'm just making little cardboard pieces for templates. And I'm going to box this in and I'm going to weld a couple tabs over this nut so that it'll be like factory where it can move around but not turn when you go to tighten it up. So we'll do that with some scrap pieces as well. But we build this box up and get it all welded in. All right, I got the back piece in, front piece in, or side piece, I guess you say. Just got to make a piece to fill this in. And I got the side welded in pretty good. Having a problem with this welder. I don't know if I need a new liner or what. My wire feed is really erratic, but we're doing the best we can here. So we'll get this front piece filled in, and then once it's all done and the body's off, I'm going to trim the base down to just pretty much the size I need. I made it a little big with the knowing that I was going to trim it, so that'll work out fine. Get the front piece on and we'll see what it looks like. All right, that is good to go. Mostly actually welded in, but I'll have to trim down the base and weld on the other side. I said when I have more room and the frame's off. One other thing I have to do, the G-body had this dummy mount, just a cushion sitting here up on top over the axle. I'm gonna make a little flat plate of steel to sit on that and just tack it to the body. There's no way to weld it with the frame in place, but once the frame's out, I can finish it off. But I just have to at least get it in place so I know where it needs to be. And it's just gonna straddle this rubber cushion here. All right, that flat plate is welded in up there. Now I'm just gonna make a little patch for this area of the wheelhouse that had to get cut out when I was removing all the structure from the original Rambler setup. So done with this side for now until it's off the frame. So that's all welded, sealed up. I had to put a big patch in the upper inner fender well, completely rotted out. I don't know, there must have been like a square of metal welded there and it was just gone. The other side's the same way. So the other side's gonna need the same repairs as this side, but I won't record it, I won't video it, including I gotta make the mounts. But it's pretty boring work, but it's just work that has to be done to build the car. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but if you want to do it right, I mean, I'd like it to be decent. Another day in the garage. All right, both sides are complete now. Both the rear body mounts are done on both sides, finished. That's about a 5-minute video. So rather than end the video at that point, we'll continue on floor pans. All right, I think this is gonna be the last major thing that has to be done here, or the last thing to do before the body can come off the frame, and that's get floor pans done. I have to do all 4 corners, and I want to reinstall the rear seat base for the bottom cushion. But that's not even a game changer. It has to be done at any time, but this has to be done now. So if you have been following along, when I first started dealing with this floor pan, somebody had welded full floor patches over all 4 corners, and I cut out the front ones just to see what was here. The rears are still in, and I still have to remove that. But you can see that while we do have rust in the floors, I didn't need this monstrous patch. So what I'm going to do is trim this down. First, you know, rough cut, and then a little at a time to get it to where I think we need to be, just to put a nice patch in and not have it be totally overdone and look like garbage, even though it is just a floor pan. Now the patch is going to cover most of the problem areas. There's probably going to be a couple of places where I need to put in some little filler pieces, but that's not a big deal at all. I think what I'll do first, just so I have a reference as I'm fitting this, I'm going to get a marker and just draw around where I need to cut this out. And really, I could do that and then set this in and then raise the car and trace from underneath to get an idea of what I actually need. Maybe we'll do that and just make it easier to do. All right, so what I'm going to do here is draw where I think I should cut. And I want to keep as much of the factory floor pan as I can, just because it's better metal probably than that, but we'll see how it goes. It certainly doesn't need anything like they cut out. And I'm going to try to keep my welding areas on pretty flat steel, so it's not so irregular. Now some of this looks a little thin, so maybe we can go like this. Get to see, we'll make sure the patch will cover it. So that, and then I'll go like this. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. When you're going down the highway, you're not going to think about your floor pan unless you didn't seal it up good and you got exhaust fumes in the car. But other than that, nobody thinks about floor pans. All right, I changed my mind. Rather than cut out the floor underneath first, I'm going to trim this panel down because it doesn't fit great because of the tunnel and stuff. It's not stamped perfectly. And there's still this adhesive or whatever they had on the floor. I got to clear all that out. But I'm going to do some rough cuts on this patch to make it smaller. And I'll just make sure that I don't cut it too small. But I'm going to try to, I know what you say, make it fit a little better before I make any final trimming. All right, I got to clean up some of this so that the patch will sit down in here nicely, because they have all this adhesive and stuff in here, because these patches were put in with like 2 tack welds and then a whole bunch of glue. So I got to get rid of all the glue and try to clean up some of the lumpy stuff and keep fitting this patch. See what it looks like after cleaning all this mess up. All right, so I've got most of the trimming done on this panel, much smaller than it was originally, and I still have the rusty floor here, but this now fits a lot better without that tunnel section in there because it wasn't stamped correctly. This pan is almost enough to fix everything. I'll have to weld in a piece over here, and the piece over here that they cut out, I'm going to have to weld in a piece. But what I'm going to do is, underneath this is the factory structure. Get this out of the way here. You have these braces here and then a piece here. What I'm going to do is weld in some new metal under here to support the pan and bring it over this way. So that'll be more support for it, and it'll actually help make it easier to fill in that hole. So I'm going to put this back into place and give it a quick trace, and then I'm going to cut the floor out probably, I don't know, 1/4 inch inside that line, so it'll be a slight overlap weld. Starting to cut away some of the floor. Say this is the original support brace. It's got some rust in this area, so I'm going to fix all that first before we get into the floor pan. And I'll still have to trim more of the floor pan out, but the more I trim away, the better the pan will fit, and then I can put it in with shooter screws to make sure it's fitting well, and then trace it, and then I'll know where all my cuts are. All right, making progress. Making a mess. All right, so I've got some steel welded in here to pick up the spots where it was gone, and this will be all right as is. This has to get repaired, but that can be done after this is in. So now that this is trimmed out pretty much where it needs to be, this fits in here pretty well. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to weld it from the top. Then I can come back and repair this. Once the body is off the frame, then from underneath, I can trim back any excess metal underneath. If it's too much, I'll probably leave like a 1/4 inch and then weld it again from the other side and seal it up. We'll see what it looks like when it's upside down. If it's nice enough, what I can do is just trim back to the weld and then just kind of hammer over a little bit of metal and then seal it. That'll probably work too, but we'll see what it looks like when it's off the frame. But for now, a lot of this is fitting actually pretty nicely. So I'm going to get a couple tacks on it, get some screws in it and where I need it, and start getting it installed. All right, I'm just starting to get some tacks in it. Some places are going to stick up a little bit because the stampings are not exactly the same as factory. So this is where I'm going to put a shooter screw in it, and hopefully it should pull the factory floor up against this patch, and then that'll take care of the sticking out there. You could push it together and weld it and see if it springs back, but I'll just put a screw in it. It'll be easier to deal with. Just a shooter screw. And disclaimer, as I've already said, I'm not a body guy. This will work. It'll be plenty strong, but is it the right way? Well, I don't know. It's the right way for me. That's all I can say. But not like that. Let's see. Try again. Okay. Now it's down. And where's my hammer? Right in front of me. Because the stampings are not exactly the same as factory. I'm going to crease them a little bit more, get them in the holes, or in the stampings, I should say. All right, so I've got a few tack welds started, and I'm just going to put some shooter screws in a few places. All right, chasing this around, pretty much just moving the shooter screw around to different places. This is all fully welded. I'm tacked on the side. The top up there is pretty much fully welded. And this side over here was a little bit wonky, which I knew was going to be. So I'll have to screw this down. But I'll just weld up. I have a shooter screw here. I'll weld up to this corner, pull the screw, move the screw forward, and just keep chasing this up. It's a million times better than what it was. It actually fits. And we'll have a good solid floor. So we'll finish chasing this around here, and then all that'll be left will be that patch in the corner. All right, got the lower structure, which is this area, repaired. And I'll have to, said from underneath, I can do a little bit more on it, but I'm going to spray it with the phosphoric acid inside here where I can't get to it really. And let that cook. And that'll treat any of that rust that's going to be hidden, because I've got to still put another piece over this for the floor. So this area here will just get treated, and it'll leave like a a phosphoric coating on it, and that'll keep it from rusting anymore. Made a little patch out of the metal that I cut off of the floor pan patch. And this is kind of a weird angle, but get a tack weld on it in one spot and just kind of knock it around with the hammer. And the nice thing is when you start putting tack welds in it, the metal gets hot and it moves a lot easier, so you can form it to fit where you need it. It doesn't have to be exact. So get some welds on that, start knocking it around. Get that tacked. Bringing down spots. I'm right on the edge of blow through, so I'm just tack welding it. Okay, I'll get it while it's hot. Form it to the pan. Okay. All right, I'll keep chasing that around. We'll come back. It'll be all welded up. All right, that floor pan is all 100% welded in, and I had some seam sealer, so I overdid it just like the factory. So, yeah, we're moving along here, but that is all I have time for today and for a few days. All right, as I said, that is all I have time for today, and that's all I have time for some days. So I'll end this video here so I can get it finished and you get an update. When we come back, we'll put the other front floor pan in and then remove the big one-piece floor pan patch that they put in the back incorrectly, just like they did the fronts, and we'll trim it down until we have just what we need as far as repairs. Looking underneath, I think it's just the area where you put your feet. That's it. So I don't know why they put complete floor patches in. So yeah, we'll get back to this. I also have some other stuff going on. There's always crazy stuff going on. We'll see how this goes, if I can do this. There's a local big card show called the Rat's Nest Run-In that's up at the Blackthorn Resort, usually the end of August. And for next year, they're actually going to have a burnout car build contest. So the deal with this contest is you build a car for this burnout contest, but then to try to keep it, I don't want to say reasonable, it's like a claimer setup for dirt track. Whoever wins the contest, they will buy the car for $1,500. So that keeps people from spending a ton of money, unless you want to spend $5,000 to get $1,500 back if you win. So I look at it like $1,500, $2,000 budget to build something to go do burnouts. But the thing is, it has to be different. It can't just be a car. It has to be, a car, but something weird. Well, I've been bouncing this back and forth over, can I do it? Do I have time to do it? Obviously, I have a whole year to do it, but I can't spend a year building a burnout car. I got this car to build. I got my Hawk to build. I got a lot of cars to build. So this is something that I would probably have to put together in a couple months, maybe next summer, June, July. We say, okay, let's build the burnout car. Well, between me and my buddy, we have a lot of cars, and he has something that's definitely one of a kind. So it's going to be a very different build. It's going to be, yeah, I don't even know how to describe this one. It's going to be interesting. So hopefully it works out that I'll have time to do this, but I should be getting that car sometime in the next couple weeks, and maybe I'll give you a sneak peek at what it's going to be. I don't want to give away everything, but as soon as you see it, you're going to be like, okay. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's it for this one. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for following this project, and thank you very much for subscribing. I realize the work going on right now is not very interesting, but I have to do it. These are real car builds for me, so the work has to get done. So that's enough for now. See ya.